Good morning. We're laying under a diesel. This is a 2013, I believe. I don't know the exact year. 2013, 2014 Ford F250. His trans fluid is black, so we're going to go ahead and drain the trans fluid and change the filter and the pan gasket while we're at it, because it does look like he's got a bit of a leak right here. And we're going to change the oil. Oil filter is easily accessible. The drain plug is here. It looks like maybe a 14 or a 15. The trans pan has a drain plug too, which is surprising, and it looks like a 13 or a 14. The oil pan or trans pan is 8mm. While I'm under here, I'm going to try to figure out where this obnoxious oil leak is coming from. My guess is probably going to be turbo return feed or something like that, since it's all on one side and none on the other. We're going to do a good cleanup on this too, so we'll try to make it look a little better. It's a nice looking truck as it is, but we're still going to try to make it look better. When doing an oil change on the diesels, you want to make sure to fill the oil filter up before starting it up. Let's see. Well, I can see up in there, but I can't see anything that would pose a leak. I see something up there that looks like it's disconnected, but I can't see my phone because these things are in the way. And I can only barely see it with my eyeballs. I don't know if it's disconnected or if it's meant to be like that, but we'll look into that in just a minute. Worst case scenario, I can go through the inner fender by pulling this 8mm off here and then rolling this rolling this panel back. I'm right up under this thing and I'm eating the sand that's falling off. But yeah, we'll pull this panel back and inspect inside of this hole here and see what we can find. The good news is I don't have to have a lift. It's somewhat easily accessible to get up under, since it is running on 26-inch tires and rims. Let's get started. Let's get some of this aero out of the way first. Drain the engine oil, drain the trans fluid, drop the pan, change the aero filter, trans filter, whatever you want to call it. It's all the same. It's still an oil. We'll be back. Well, she's a 13mm, and I didn't make a mess all over myself, surprisingly. You gotta be quick about it. That's gonna be a 13mm as well. We'll get that in just a minute. We got about 13.5 quarts to drain out here, so as soon as this is done, we'll put the plug back in, move on to the drain pan for the transmission. I did clean up some of this a little bit. There's still a lot left. 1 can of brake parts cleaner went a long way, but 3 cans are going to go even further. We'll get it somewhat nice and prettyful. It's kind of hard to keep a diesel nice and pretty. Hey, you're seeing purple. Yeah, this is not 13.1 quarts coming out of here. This is I think it's 27 quart pan. This is one of those concrete mixing pans from Home Depot. And I hadn't been here long enough for it to drain out 13 quarts. So that leak is obviously substantial up there, enough to a point where it just drains it all down and he loses it. And I still wish I knew what that hole was up there. It's round on the outside edge of it and got a hex on the inside against the block. Maybe it's a block warmer, I don't know. We're going to let this here drain for a minute. I'm going to switch off to this plug here and drain it. Scooter pan back and over just a wee bit. We'll get our drip coming over here to the corner. Our transmission fluid is going to come over to that side. If your transmission fluid looks like your engine oil, you have absolutely got a problem. This is I think it's a built transmission. I'm not entirely sure. If it's not a built transmission, then he has some shift solenoids that are going bad, because it shifts really hard from first to second and then third to second. I'll have to run codes on it here in just a few minutes and see exactly what's going on after I put the transmission fluid and all that good stuff back in. But yeah, your transmission fluid should not be black. I'm a little concerned now that I'm draining it out that it's too black, and I will let him know that there is a potential that the transmission could die, because this is all of your friction draining out. You got to be careful not to drop this thing in all of that oil and transmission fluid. That would be catastrophic. $1,700 phone stuck off in the oil. This might drain for a while. This is either, they say that's either 8 quarts or 5 quarts, and my best guess is going to be it's 8 quarts. Then we'll move on to taking the transmission pan off. So I was completely wrong about this truck. It is not a 2014 or a 2015 or a 2013. It's a 2011. But thankfully they're exactly the same. The old model and the new model design is, if it has a 6.7, then it's the same anyways. So I've got the trans fluid drained. I've got the engine oil drained. I have to take the filter off for the engine oil. You can see it right through there. It's filthy. That's going to be a mess, because a lot of times when people put those oil filters on, they tighten the mess out of them. And they're nearly cross-threaded when they put them on. Plus, the people who drive diesels don't normally do an oil change as often as they should. This comes with a reusable transmission pan gasket. In the event that is not reusable, the kit that I got from AutoZone does come with another transmission pan gasket, although it is not rubber infused steel or aluminum. So let's get down here. Yeah. Fall all over the place and take some transmission pans out. Or pan bolts out. Ugh. Wrong way, Brad. Well, that's nice. They're not really tight. You're going to have a wrench for your back three, because it's not possible to reach it. And I'm pretty sure that there's usually a skid plate on these that covers the transmission and the oil pan, but there's not one on this one. And I do believe that's because these are put in, and I don't think the factory came with those. Actually, I know the factory didn't come with those. Just a heads up here, I have not pre-loosened any of these. These are all just as tight as they were when the vehicle was brought to me. Oh, almost dropped it in the oil. What was that? I heard something buzz. I don't know what it was, and I didn't like it. This is gonna be quick. I can't see the sockets in the way. Alright, all of these up to that corner is loose. can't get in there those. I'll be able to go to the other side in just a minute to get the other side bolts, but I'm going to unscrew these by hand just so they don't drop in the transmission fluid. Actually, no, I'm not. I'm going to use the electric ratchet and hold it until they're out. That's out. Need to get my GoPro back out and start doing videos daily. I just haven't had the drive to really do much. Oh no. No! My worst nightmare has come to pass. I'll be getting that later whenever I drain the oil out. I'm not sticking my hands down in that nastiness. It actually might do the bolts some justice because they're still bolts and the transmission is aluminum. Ow. Uh-oh. Okay, good. I caught it. Now, these are going to be our last 3 bolts, maybe 4 bolts. I think the one that, oh, don't drop the foam brand. The one bolt right there is going to have to be gotten with the wrench, I do believe. I don't have any swivel sockets anymore because they were all disorganized and I just gave them all away. Alright, we're on the opposing side of the vehicle. Let's see if we can get to this. Oh yeah, it's going to be great. See if we can get it without it dropping in the fluid. That one was the only tight one out of the whole bunch. Alright, so now I'm down to my last 3 bolts. All of the rest of the exterior bolts are out. And I am going to need a wrench because, as I said, I can't get in there with this. So I'm going to go get an 8mm wrench. I think I can get my ratcheting wrench in there. And I do see another mess happening in the near future, so let's see if we can prepare for that by moving the pan back some. Get all of our bolts out of the way and go back just a little bit further. It's not leaking in the front because that part of the pan is deeper than the back part of the pan is, and the vehicle is sitting on an incline, so the front is uphill, the back is downhill. Alright, I've gotten the transmission pan off, I've gotten the trans filter off, and there's one thing that I noticed. There are 2 different size bolts. There's one really long, and if I remember correctly, it went into this one. This is the driver's side middle hole on the valve body. To be able to test this theory is to just put it up in here. Yeah, see, that's way too much distance, so that hole was not the right one. Let's see, where is our next hole? I remember this hole was short. Here's our other one. This is the one it's supposed to be in. So this is back in the middle. Now our transmission filter has 3 bolt holes, as you may know, based off of 3 bolts missing. And it does span all 3 of these holes. The one way over on the other side, the one on this side, and the one in the back. So we're gonna go ahead and worm this one back up in there. I'm gonna dip it in a little bit of this used trans fluid and oil, and I'm gonna set this down and poke it in the hole. All right, a little bit of lube goes a long way.
That's what she said.
Yeah, I know. People can be childish. I know it's gonna probably be said on the video. Short bolt, make sure that you have nothing but a little trans fluid or oil on the bolts going back in. Short bolts on the sides, long bolt in the back. These are 8mm, so just be mindful of that when you're taking them out. Don't use, did I say 8mm or 9mm? It's a 8mm if I did say any other size. The trans pan bolts are 8mm. The filter bolts are 8mm. And our electric ratchet socket is also 8mm. How much torque? All of it. Just make sure you don't strip it. This one's a little hard to see, but it went. Yeah. Alright, now the next thing we're going to do is take some brake parts cleaner and clean up the transmission pan mounting surface to get out any trash that would be left behind. The back side of it looks good. This side of it has a little bit of nastiness on it. So when we go back together, we're going to make sure that the whole entire pan is torqued exactly the same. All of it. Alright, with the transmission pan and components internally dripping with brake parts cleaner. No dirt on the exterior on the gasket. And the transmission pan also clean of any material that would be left behind. Oh yeah, there's the transmission pan. You were looking at the sky. What were you doing up there? Anyways, we're ready to go back together. We'll clean this transmission pan off whenever we get it back in there, because it's probably going to get transmission fluid all over it. Okay, when you put the pan back in, make sure not to put all the bolts in one place. Otherwise, you're going to be holding the pan up on one side and then tightening bolts up, and then go to the other side and they not line up. So you want them to be all over the place, and you want all the bolts in at one time before tightening them up. Tightening and then, okay Brad, speak English today. Tightening them up. We do still have one bolt left down in the transmission fluid. We'll get that eventually. It will be before this job is done, but I'm not in too big of a hurry for it, because that means that I have to get my hands black. This is the main reason why I don't like working on diesels, because they're extremely gross. Alright, it looks like I have no more bolts on this side. We're gonna shove the pan backwards. Make sure there's nothing here on the ground that's gonna poke us in the back or stab us in the back, like my ex-wife did. Move over here and grab our, what is that noise? I heard it again. It sounded like it came from the transmission. I don't know. Now you can run these in just a little bit, but you definitely don't want to tighten them all the way down, because you want to make sure that they're all lined up before you tighten them up. What are you whining about? You're being obnoxious. Now we're going to make sure to get all of the hard ones first before getting to that last bolt. We'll make sure that last bolt is one that's accessible from the outset. Oh, it's a good thing that pan wasn't there anymore. I would have been mad at myself, of course, since I was the one that did it, but still, I would have been mad. Alright, getting there. Slowly but surely. Slowly making our way. The arm's getting tired. We must press on. We must continue. Get in there. Hasn't really taken too terribly long. I actually waited on AutoZone longer to bring the parts than it has taken me to do this job. I usually don't do transmission work unless it's rebuilding transmissions, because of the simple fact, well, maybe there's a couple of them, but one of the main ones that I have to lay on the ground in order to do this, and my idiotic self decided to put shell all over the ground. And honestly, it would have probably been easier just working in the sand. I need concrete. I got concrete all around here, just not where I need it. Alright, I have to find my last bolt, or last two bolts, because I don't see it on the ground. And it's not in the transmission. Hello? Transmission bolt. Where did you go, bolt? I don't see it. I don't see it. All of my transmission bolts were put right there. And I've used them all. Only dropped one into this. You know, when you overwork yourself, you don't pay attention to what you're doing. As you can see here, I only have one bolt missing. I searched all over the shell just a minute ago for another bolt because I thought I was missing two bolts. I only have one bolt missing. I am an idiot. That's the bolt that's in the pan. This pan. Down there somewhere. In the deepest, darkest depths of the nastiest oil and transmission fluid I've ever come across in my entire life. So let's go fishing. Oh, here's to hoping that the first 3 seconds of being into this fluid, I find the bolt. And, ow, ow, ow. Hopefully, she's down on that end in this corner. Where the filter is at. But, knowing my luck, it's going to be midway out of the pan. My whole entire hand is going to be covered in this nastiness. Sorry for sending y'all all over the world here. Oh, found it. That's lovely. Just lovely. It's going to take 5 days to get off my hand. Alright, let's go ahead and stick this in and see how long it actually does take to get this off of my hand. Well, brake parts cleaner is a wonderful spray. It's a pain reliever. It's an air freshener. It's oil removal. And it's a very good fire starter. So, let's go ahead and tighten some bolts. This ratchet does not have a whole lot of torque. So if you'll remember one of my previous videos I did, like an intro to this ratchet. I bought it on the TikTok shop. I have a quarter drive ratchet from Milwaukee, and I have a 3/8 electric ratchet, big head from Milwaukee. This one's easier to use. It costed as much as a quarter of a Milwaukee M12 battery. And it's very torquey, surprisingly, but still doesn't have enough torque to worry about stripping these bolts. Alright, let's go up a little bit. Yeah. Cramps. Now the fun part, getting those last three. All the rest of them are tight. I don't know how tight I'm going to be getting these, but I can make that judgment call off of one of these other bolts. It might help if I actually get on the bolt. She's pretty tight. Be careful going through torquing them with your hand, because without having a torque wrench, it's kind of hard to determine exactly when the stripping point is. And you don't want to be breaking bolts or stripping holes and having to take the bolt back out, putting a Healy coil in, and doing all that good jazz. It's almost better just to use a torque wrench and do it right. Alright, now let's see if we can imitate the same torque. Three hours later. Not really tight, but not really loose. You want to be in between, mate. Hush. This dog barks at everything. Whines at everything. Wants to always stay inside the house, but he's an outside dog. I mean, outside while I'm outside anyways. Anytime I'm outside, he's here. Anytime I'm inside, he wants to be inside, but sometimes he also wants to be inside just to be able to sleep on our couch and make our couch smell like dog. Okay, so that's done. I have to clean the trans pan off. and to change the oil filter. Let's see. Remove everything from out of the way, even myself. Oh yeah, it's great right in the mouth. That's much bad. Alright, let's make way. Get over here. Get over here. I'll pull. Ouch. In the head. Pull all this back up here. Get whacked in the face with a hose. Reach over here. Left is loose, right is tight. Remember this. Alright, so which way are we going, Brad? We're pulling to us since we're on the driver's side. Surprising enough, it wasn't extremely tight. Ow, cramps. You know, any other time I would poke a hole in the bottom of this. But in this instance, I think I'm going to let it drain for a few minutes. Go inside, grab myself lunch, come back outside, and then take the oil filter the rest of the way off. Nah, no I'm not. This is extremely slick. Wow, there's barely any threads on this thing. Oh, lovely. Lovely. Hello? Are you stunned, dog? You're not coming under here. Don't even think about it. Man, everybody is calling me. Okay, let's slide out. Pot you on. 5 seconds later, we have a clean hand. Now we're putting Rotella T4 conventional. I think this is conventional. I don't know. I know it's expensive, whatever it is. It just says triple protection. It doesn't specify. We got us an STPPP oil filter. Let's just see if we got our nub on the bottom of it. Nope. Does that mean that the one that's under there in the oil filter has to be taken out, or does that mean that this is the wrong oil filter in general? Okay, the impenetrable oil filter. My guess is probably that oil filter is right, but the piece that threads on here has to be threaded back into the oil filter housing. I've seen the oil filters with those nipples on them, but at the same time, this one looked like it was able to be taken off. Alright, 1 second. Alright, this is our old oil filter with our adapter stuck inside of it. This piece is supposed to be inside of the filter housing over there, not inside of here. So we're gonna go grab a scocket, take it off, put it back in there with some torque, and go about our day. It looks the same on both ends. Let's just test that theory here real quick by threading into the oil filter. We're same on that side. We're not. Oh, yeah, we are same on that side. So it goes either way. Looks exactly the same on both sides. And the socket, in the event that this happens to you, is a 30 millimeter. So we're gonna go get this thing put on. Get us a little bit of oil on the seal from the oil filter that came off of it. Get the impact handy because we're not doing this again. Slide under the vehicle and get it threaded into its home over there. Preferably straight without getting this gross oil all over you. Thread it in some by hand. Look at your diesel blood. Grab the impact. Oh, where'd the socket go? Don't torque the mess out of it, but torque it enough. You don't want 1,300 foot-pounds going to this thing. Okay, that's plenty tight enough. Take the oil filter. We're going to do this the way that I said that I wouldn't do this. And put it on there with no oil in it. Alright, now give her a tug here with our clean hand to make sure she's good and tight. And we're done under here. We've got 13.1 quarts of oil to put in and 8 quarts roughly of transmission fluid. Smells like food. Have to get my little step ladder here since I'm vertically challenged. It doesn't help that the front of this thing, I'm 5'9". If this gives you any idea, this is at nose height. And I don't have a really big head. Yeah. Back there is your trans dipstick and your oil dipstick, and if you look at yourself in the mirror, you too are a dipstick. I'm just kidding. I'm just trying to be funny here. The oil fill says that this is a 10W30. It has to be severe duty. Speak English, Brad. Speak English. Severe duty biofuel, SAE 5W40 or SAE 10W30. They don't know what they recommend. They just recommend some oil to be put in it. So we're going to put Rotella T4, whatever weight this is, 15W40. We've got 300,000 miles on it nearly. We need that extra added protection. And then of course our transmission fluid, since we need to be able to drive. And yeah, that 2.5 gallon jug's pretty heavy. Anyway, since there is a bunch of black goo in the transmission fluid, we're gonna do some stop slip. It's not slipping, it's shifting hard. We need that extra added viscosity and protection. So we're gonna get everything set up here and then come right back. Okay, everything is here. Our transmotion funnel is there. You wanna make sure to give yourself plenty of space to do everything, simply because everything is back, way back in the abyss of this engine bay. This is your engine oil speaking. Let's go ahead and set that out of the way there a wee bit. Nothing's bolted down, of course. That's right. It's normal. We hope. We've got 7 feet worth of dipstick here. This is gonna be fun. Woo! Thought I broke something. That makes sense, right? That's how it's supposed to be. Is that how it's supposed to be? That's not how it's supposed to be. Oh man, I don't have another way of pouring this either, so it's going to be a really long, slow process. We're going to pour in. What we're going to do first is put our stop slip in. This is 1 quart. Then we're going to put this one in, and then half of this one. That should give us the amount of fluid that we took out of it, roughly. If we need more, then we'll have 2 more quarts. But this absolutely needs to go in first because it's the thickest. Transmission fluid's going to wash it down. And then this right here is going to be our extra bit. I've got another funnel. I need to grab it to be able to put our engine oil in. It does call for 13.1 quarts. So there's 2.5 gallons here and then another gallon here. Right at 3 gallons of oil. If you found this video helpful at all, please consider liking, subscribing, and share the video. Thanks for watching.